What up, nerds? Jared here with Gerhard and Alex. This is like Changelog's dev squad, the development team right now. Hi, guys.
Hey, Jared.
Hey, hey.
You. Good afternoon to me. Everybody's feeling fresh and ready for it.
Fresh and ready.
Yeah.
Monday morning coffee for me. Alex is also waking up. I don't know if you do a coffee.
Cheers. Oh, every day.
Mine is coming up in like about an hour. So just as we're finishing with this, mine is coming up.
There you go.
That's the
Afternoon
plan.
round. Mm-hmm. So here to do a bit of a jam session and work together on some coding and some Grafana-ing. Trying to get some more observability, not just into, I guess, like system metrics, but this is more application metrics is what I'm after. So let me describe to you guys what we're doing right now and what I would like to see. So we have this vanity domains module, which is really just about doing redirects. It's very simple. And Gerhard, you know about this a little bit because you helped set up the short domains like gotime.fm.
Yep.
There's jsparty.fm. There's practicalai.fm. And we use these because it's easier to say that on the shows. For example, I can say go to gotime.fm/123, and that will get you to the right episode versus go to changelog.com/gotime/123. So it's just a nice way of saying it short. And we use it in promotional things. So when we're linking to things in show notes, when we're linking on Twitter and YouTube, we always use the short URLs because it's a nice little branded way to get to certain places. And you can see it's just doing a redirect. So this domain redirects to this location. If I put /request, it's going to go to this location, which is the request form with GoTime pre-filled out. If I use a episode 123, like I said, it's going to go to that location. So it's literally just a short URL. And this module handles all that.
Yep. I think one piece of background information is that we used to do this in Nginx. And our Nginx config was quite big. It's not just these URLs, so like the FQDS domains themselves, but it's also all the changelog.com redirects that we picked up over the years. Right. So rather than having this configuration spread between the infrastructure and eventually Nginx and the app, we decided to move all of them, all the logic in the app itself. Then we can have nice tests because we used to do end-to-end testing for Nginx redirects in, I think we had like some bash scripts for that. So this is so much better because everything is self-contained in the app. And wherever the app goes, if we replace Nginx with something else, it still behaves the same because the logic is in the app. So there's the benefit of having a majestic monolith, right? Which is great because we can self-contain all those things in the monolith.
That's right. So we do, I forgot this part. We also do like the short links to specific platforms. So like this stuff's in the database. So in the case of like this, it's going to have the podcast struct, and it's going to, for Apple, it actually has knowledge. So if I go to /Apple, it's going to get me that Apple link. So that stuff's there as well. What I would love to add and have is just like basic metrics of these redirects. So I'd love it to just say, oh, I'm redirecting, and just note that. It could be a log. It could be like a Grafana thing. It could be a PromEx. That's where I leave off and you guys go. I don't really want to have it a part of the database. It's pretty ephemeral. I don't care that much about it. That being said, it's nice to know like, hey, GoTime's redirect, because we use it for promotion. We use it for things that are external. Like, hey, is it actually getting used is a nice thing to know. It doesn't have to be super accurate. We don't have to care like, oh, it's a robot that hit it versus a human that hit it. We don't really care all that much. It's just like, I would love to have over time, like, hey, gotime.fm is being used, jsparty.fm is being used or not being used, because these things are just useful to know. And so that's why I thought maybe this is a nice middle ground for Grafana, where we're doing some way of sending this information over to Grafana. I can look at it on a dashboard, but it doesn't have to be like part of our Postgres install and something we back up and like that kind of stuff. So that's my general idea and desire, is just to be able to log or note these redirects in a way that we can then turn into some sort of chart or graph.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think Grafana is the right place for it in that case.
Mm-hmm.
And I would advocate for a PromEx plugin, but
Okay.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Oh, why and why not? Let's have this debate.
So what I would do, I would use in our case, the Nginx logs, because the Nginx logs, they see all the requests. So that's what's in front of the app. I don't think that whether we log the FQDN part in the log lines themselves, but we should add that. Once we have the FQDN part, I would like us to maybe do a bit of structured logging in Nginx, right? That will be very powerful because whatever we replace Nginx with eventually, which will happen, we will have the same logs. The idea is if we do it in the app, we would be forced to continue doing those redirects in the app. And that's okay, that's not a problem. But I know that we have certain assets like the embed.js, for example, which we serve directly from our CDN. So I don't know, going forward, whether we keep those redirects in the app or whether we put it in the CDN, because CDN will be a lot faster. So just to give you an idea, a request that goes through the CDN, through Nginx, through the app, we're looking at about 500 milliseconds to a second, which is 1,000 milliseconds. Embed.js that's served directly from the CDN, it's 10 milliseconds flat, regardless where you're at. So that's like 100 times quicker than if we go through the app. So while I think keeping the redirects in the app for now is the right step, I think doing more things like logging in the app and having like this, like the redirect, how many redirects have been triggered. I think we should use the logs that we already have for our proxy, whatever's in front of the app. Because eventually, I mean, I know that we derive a lot of knowledge and insights from the CDN, like from those logs.
Right.
In our like stats, how many requests
yeah.
we have, because a lot of the stuff that gets cached by the CDN doesn't even hit the app. So if you didn't look at the CDN logs, you wouldn't even see that. So I think that's the entry point. What do you think, Alex? Why do you think we should put this in PromEx?
So I'm just getting into this. So I don't know the architecture, so it's good to have that background. But it would be nice, from my view, just to have the like to have explicit callouts in the code that say, hey, capture some piece of data regarding this. And then it's also nice because then we can have like tags for what what is the destination? Is it JS Party? Is it Go Time?
Right.
What was the individual podcast? And I think that fits well as a tag. I was initially thinking about if Nginx attaches the referrer HTTP header, we could have a plug that just says, look for that referrer HTTP header, and then just emit a telemetry event, and then we can capture that data. But if it doesn't, and we're unable to, let's say, get around that CDN problem, then there's a much bigger trade-off that I just wasn't aware of there.
Yeah. So I do like the idea of explicitly having that logic expressed in the code, like, because then we can go to the code at a certain point and say, what all are we capturing, or what all do we care about? And it's the kind of thing that I could potentially add more things to down the road. Like, oh, we also want to know when people fail to sign in, or, whatever the metric happens to be. And then I could say, oh, here's how we did it last time. Here's how we do it this time. So that is attractive. That being said, I think eventually offloading all this to a CDN, like an edge thing, definitely makes sense in terms of just response times and flexibility. My question to you, Gerhard, is like, there is application logic in these redirects, and it is the kind of thing that I write logic from time to time. For example, like this is hard coded right now because we are accepting, I quit screen sharing. Let me just describe it. So there's a specific route, jsparty.fm/ff, which stands for front end feud, which redirects to a type form. And that's because we're collecting surveys for the next front end feud episode of JS Party. And I want to be able to say on the show, go to jsparty.fm/ff to fill out the form for the front end feud survey. It's just hard coded. It's ephemeral in terms of it'll be gone in a few months. And so there's like application logic things. Like if that did live in a CDN, and our CDN right now is Fastly, and let's assume that we can get that kind of logic into Fastly, I would be going two places. I would go to the CDN to put that kind of code in, and then I'd be going to the application to put other kind of code in. So that's a factor of saying, is it even feasible to one day bypass the app altogether? For example, we are pulling data from the database. It's relatively static. The Spotify URL for GoTime is not going to change. The Apple URL for the changelog is not going to change, but we're pulling it out of the database because that's where we administer that data. And if we add a new podcast, we will add a new Apple URL. And so how would that logic, those data points live in a CDN? Or maybe it's like a hit the app once and cache forever kind of a thing that we would set up over there. Curious your thoughts on that. If we were to say it would be rad eventually to like just serve this from the CDN.
Yeah. So I do recognize the fact that I've complicated things a bit by going like to step number 2 or 3 with a CDN.
Sure.
I think the first step is to rely on the logs that we already have from Nginx and the CDN to build those metrics without doing anything extra in the app. Because we can see what the app responds with, the timings, the headers. I don't think we're capturing the location header in the logs. We could. And if we had that, well, we don't have to do anything other than configure the lines that we log. We already forward all those logs to Grafana Cloud.
Right.
We are already deriving a lot of metrics from those logs. In Grafana Cloud, we have dashboards, alerting, and all that stuff. So all we would have to do is do more of what we're already doing without touching the app. Other than, as I said, exposing the location, a response header in the logs.
Right.
We can see what was the request. We see what the response, and part of the thing that we log is where are we responding the user to go to? Where are we redirecting this?
Do you need that location header even? Because couldn't you just use the request URL? Like if it's gotime.fm/123, we already know we're hitting the redirector.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we could just use the request URL. We would need to append the FQDN part because we don't see the domain currently in the request.
So either way, we need more information.
Yeah, but when you're redirecting with the location, for example, to like external service, we don't see that because we don't know what the location header is. I think internally it's okay because internally, if you think about it, we respond with go whatever changelog.com. There's another request which comes back in to changelog.com.
Unless we're setting them external, like to Spotify,
exactly.
For example.
Yeah, exactly. That's again. So I was like 3 steps ahead
when
it comes to this, or
I like both purviews. Like we have to know what's the simplest, best solution for right now, but also let's not paint ourselves into a corner because we can see a future where this makes sense. So like what's, we have to think about all these things as we make the decision. I think in light of all of that, go ahead.
One thing which I would like to try is both approaches because we know the theory part, but how difficult would it be to implement both? And that's a comparison that we can do very easily right now since all of us are here, which would be very difficult to try without. So since you're already in the code, Alex.
So Alex is the creator of PromEx. And so Alex, show us the path to the PromEx success here. What would I do? We already have PromEx set up in the application, right? Like, should I just screen share and start typing, or do you want to? Do you have the code in front of you? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, so the code's on my Linux box.
Okay,
on
so
my MacBook Air.
I'll drive, and you tell me what to do here. Let me share screen again.
Yeah, sure. So at a high level, if we want to capture custom metrics, we need to write our own plugin to insert into PromEx so that I could load it up and initialize it. And if we're only capturing one data point, which is just the referrer, or
so the data point that we care about. So,
or is it just maybe this part, like this?
Really, what we care about is like which show is this? Is this JS Party? Is it Practical AI? Which is really the podcast that gets fetched, which is pulled out of the URL, right? Determine destination. Hold on a second. Let me remember how I do this. So let me just walk through this code. So when this plug gets called, the podcasts are already loaded. We we have our published podcasts are always the same. So we just pre-cache and load those for every request that comes through the application. So we don't have to go fetching podcasts from the database multiple times. So the first thing we do is we get the host out of the connection. And then if the host is changelog.com, it's like I said, it's a no op. Otherwise, we find which podcast this particular request refers to. And so we make sure we don't find one whose vanity domain is nil. The vanity domain is an actual database column in the podcast database. And then we find the one whose vanity domain matches the host of the request. So if it's gotime.fm that matches the host, we find that, and then we call the vanity redirect with the podcast and the connection.
Okay, so it sounds like in between line 21 and 22 is where we want to capture that metric, because at this point we have the vanity domain, right?
That's right. At this point, we know which podcast this refers to, and we have the connection string. So we can hop in here and we could pull out of the connection string. Because I think what we care about is which podcast is this? And then secondarily, maybe what's the destination? I like that'd be a nice to have.
Yeah, so I think.
And then the third thing that'd be nice to have is the referrer, which is probably the least important to me. But like, hey, Twitter's sending a bunch of traffic to gotime.fm. Maybe interesting.
Yeah. So the only thing I would be cautious about with the referrer. So I was thinking that referrer would be like an internal thing where it's like JS party, whereas the referrer when you got redirected to like the change log or something. But if it's if that has the possibility of being like an unbounded tag, right. We just need to make sure that we find some way of clamping it. So if we know like let's say we want to capture from Twitter and Google and a limited number of sources, let's have a filter. Right. And then if it doesn't fall into that filter, the tag just defaults to unknown or something. So we have like a discrete number of possible values for that tag. Just because Prometheus won't like unbounded values very much.
I think probably the ROI on that feature is low. So let's just forget about it. I don't really care all that much, the referrer. What I want to know is like, is this redirector being used more or less than it has been in the past? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that scope of work is probably better.
Okay. That sounds good.
So you do think hopping in right after line 21 is where we now have a connection which is going to be redirected for a specific podcast.
Yep. Yeah. So you could probably just stick a pipe in there and then maybe just call like a function like capture redirect telemetry or something.
And we just pass the same stuff, right? We're going to pass the podcast and the connection. Why not? We may not use it yet.
Yeah. So I guess the podcast is the first argument, right? Yeah. I don't think we'll be using the connection, but.
All right. So let's hop down here somewhere in the private things. And we have a podcast and we might not use the connection. Okay, now what?
Okay, so it's going to be telemetry.
So this is calling into Erlang things?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Dot execute. And then your first argument here, probably an empty map. I don't think there's any like numerical data points that we're capturing here. We're not capturing like any like durations or timings or anything like that.
No, just the fact that it exists is all that matters.
Yeah, and so this will be a counter in Prometheus, and then our next one is our next map is our metadata, and so this would be the podcast.
Now, should we send it the slug? Should we send it the name of the podcast? What does Prometheus care?
I don't think it really matters what you like. If you want it as a slug, that works. I think it's whatever you want, whatever's easier on the eyes. Let's say when it comes time for viewing it.
Yeah, the podcast name is certainly easier on the eyes.
Are these going to be labels?
Yep. Yeah, those will be your labels.
What does a podcast name look like? Is it a slug?
No.
What is the podcast name?
It's like the changelog, uppercase
I see.
C, uppercase C.
Okay.
Whereas the slug would be, so the changelog is the outlier. Most of the slugs pretty much match, like GoTime is GoTime. But the changelog slug is actually podcast because it was the first one. So it's not
like the top level, like one of the 6 or 7 that we have. I think it's
exactly. It's it's the name of the actual podcast. We call episodes and podcasts. Sometimes those get used interchangeably.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, cool. So that makes sense. If it's podcast, that's okay because it's a fairly small set and it's not growing. So like 6,
right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep,
yeah. So like the second thing we might want is the destination, which would maybe be a slug of an episode. So like if it's gotime.fm/123, 123 is the slug of an actual episode. If it's actually, now that I think about it, what we really just want is that slug is the second part of the URL, because maybe it's /Apple. That's enough information for us to know that's where they're headed is Apple. If it's /Spotify, if it's /123, that's an episode, etc. So if we could send both of those things, that would be potentially useful.
You need to think that every combination of labels that you set creates a new time series. So if you have changelog Apple, that's one. Changelog Spotify, that's another time series. Changelog 123, that's another time series, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so it's not like a drill down where you can say,
nope,
show me all the changelogs, and say, also show me the changelogs with 123.
Nope.
No, yeah. So in this case, if it was podcast and then the destination, yeah, like Gerhard was saying, so it'd be like, so JS Party, Go Time, however many of those there are. So let's say like there's 6 or 7.
Right.
And let's say destinations are another 6 or 7. It would be 6 or 7 times 6 or 7.
So 50 of
and
them.
So so you're ended up with like 30 to 50 depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Which isn't too much.
Which would be fine if we were just.
But then if you add the number as well, that'll also blow up the time series data points.
Especially when they're sparse and you have like a lot of them, that's when you start having problems.
Yeah.
It's the high cardinality problem with Prometheus. That's where metrics, people are trying to do things with metrics that they were not designed to do. And this is one such example.
Okay.
In that case, you'd want like events or data structures, which are okay to be like infinitely wide. You can cram as many data points as you want. It doesn't matter because they get interpreted just in time at query time, which is another reason to use logs, because logs, you can stick as many details as you want. And then when you query them, that's when they get computed.
Okay. So if it was just the static destinations, I would say maybe let's do that because we could have 50 of them. But because we're always adding episode IDs, and you can definitely use these for episodes, like one of the main use cases is, here's a new episode, go check it out, and it's going to just always increment 5 times a week. So let's leave that off. So is this it?
So is this all the metadata we need to capture? Is the podcast name, or do we also need the Apple, Spotify, that kind of stuff as well?
I think let's just leave it off.
Leave it off. Okay, so it's just the podcast. So effectively, we're just going to capture here. How often are we leveraging the vanity URL stuff?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we have our metadata. We have our measurements. All right. So right before that first map, now that we've got all of our data points together, make a list. And then we're going to find a way of namespacing our telemetry events. So I would do, it's a list of atoms. So I would do colon, the changelog.
Like the changelog as a string, or what are you talking about? Oh, colon as a symbol.
Yeah, it's atom. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
And then, comma, and then whatever you want to call this data point. So maybe we just say like, I don't know, vanity URL.
Isn't it a redirect?
Let's call them redirects.
Changelog redirect.
We just call them redirects. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That works.
Anything that you want to make it a bit more specific? So changelog redirects for maybe something more specific? Or is it just like a generic redirect?
I mean, these are promotional or short, they're basically like vanity redirects is what we call is what I refer to them in my head as these are our vanity redirects.
Okay. So maybe vanity redirects, vanity _redirects. That would make sense.
Yes. Yeah, so this list could be of any size. So you could do changelog, vanity, and then redirects is your last.
Are we trying to now is this telling Prometheus like the kind of like the namespace to put these into kind of a thing?
So this is just for telemetry right now. So the execute function in telemetry, the first argument is the ID. So like what what is the idea of this event where you could have other things attached to. So PromEx will need to know about this changelog vanity redirects list, because that's the idea to attach to this event. And the other two maps are just the data associated with it. The first being the measurements, and the last one being the metadata.
Gotcha. So PromEx is going to glom onto the built-in telemetry things to send it over to Prometheus. Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah,
let's just leave it like this. That feels good.
Cool. Yeah, so we're done here. So you could say that.
Okay.
And then
now we need a PromEx plugin.
Yep. Yeah. So if you go to.
So hang on. When you did capture redirect telemetry, are you sending the podcast? I thought you were only sending. Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. The podcast is implied, right? Because it's the map.
It's the first argument. It's the first argument to this. In fact, I can just pull that connection string out. Well, let's leave it there in case eventually I want to go use it. But it's basically here in the pipeline.
Right. Yeah. So it's part of the pipe. That's the bit which I missed. Cool.
Now it looks like I do have a no op in the case that we didn't match a vanity domain, and so enum.find might return nil.
So let's just So if you go,
I can do the same thing for that function.
Yeah, I was say just do the same thing. So have a nil match, and then
exactly
return podcast or return nil, I guess.
Let's see what I do up top.
Wouldn't you want to know when this gets hit? If anything, when you do get like a nil podcast, if anything, these are the interesting ones to catch, right? Because you would expect to have it. Or you'd want to know what users are using for which you're not returning a podcast.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. Yeah. Is this something that gets hit often?
I don't know.
Or we don't know, which is actually a really good thing to capture in that case.
So basically the only way this would get hit without a known podcast, because if it's changelog.com, like if it's a 404 or something that we don't actually use, it's going to hit changelog.com and it's going to bypass us anyway. So this would have to be like a domain that's not changelog.com, so it still gets routed to our app somehow, and then is not matching one of our podcasts. So, I mean, I think it would be pretty rare, but yeah, I mean, if we want to just capture it and see if it ever happens, maybe we learn a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
So would we then hijack this, and instead of sending this, we send a different data point? We send like a nil podcast nil, or how would we send it anyways?
Yeah, I mean, so you can give that previous function a body, and then just like copy and paste that execute, and then let's maybe change. Change the metadata, and then instead of sending it podcast.name, maybe just say send it like a string, unknown or error or something that lets us know that something's wonky.
At that point, I almost want to know what they were requesting though. Because now I know that they didn't hit anything, right? But if I just send over like unknown, then it's like, well, a bunch of unknown ones.
Yeah. So
then you might have an unbound problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So here's where you would leverage logs. So maybe you capture both, some piece of time series data, so it's easier to see like on a graph, and that'll pinpoint you to somewhere in the logs where you can start looking at individual events and picking out what exactly is going on.
Okay, so we'll just leave it as unknown because that's bound, and that'll at least tell us that how often that thing's getting hit, and then we can dive deeper if it's a problem or it's a interesting thing to dive into.
Yeah,
we do one tiny refactoring where we extract telemetry, execute another function name, and then we just call it function with either unknown or podcast.
You want to pull out another function and have these functions call the function? Is that what you're at?
Those two exactly, because telemetry execute is the same. The only thing that differs is the podcast name. It's either the actual podcast name or it's unknown.
Okay. So we'll call this one execute telemetry.
Yeah.
And
it sounds
pass in the bit to actually
the name or whatever you want to call it. And then the connection. Actually, we don't use the connection. So
we don't use the connection at this point, but I'd have to refactor this down the road.
Yeah.
If we do. And execute.
Yeah, and usually the way to do this is people will create like a telemetry module, and that telemetry module will have all the execute calls that you'll eventually make in your app, and just so that they're nicely compartmentalized into like one module, or you can kind of see all the events that your app is emitting.
I love that idea.
So we could do that refactoring later if we want.
Totally.
49 line
Gerhard?
40, podcast_name, because like what name is it? It's always
all right.
And same thing in podcast. That's perfect.
All right.
Sweet.
We're happy. Take us to this PromEx plugin. Where do we put those?
Sounds good. So if we look, where did we? So open up the changelog directory. We can. So PromEx will be there because that's the definition where all the the first party plugins are. But if you look on line 14, I include some nice comments where it's like you could include your own plugins. So you could probably just make like another directory here in changelog that's maybe like PromEx plugins.
And have one called vanity redirects, or what?
Yeah, call it like redirects.
Just like this.
Yeah, that's fine. That works. Or I mean, if you want, I guess if you want to get specific with vanity,
I think vanity would be better.
Yeah,
you will have end up with a bunch of redirects in a bunch of places and don't know which is which.
That's true. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, let me go back to this.
Yep. So go to PromEx now and add that module in.
Yeah. So here you have tuples, but I can just add like a bare plugin like this.
Yep. It could be just like line 9.
PromEx dot. Oh wait, what do we call it? Yeah, PromEx
vanity redirects.
Redirects. Oh, vanity redirects.
Mm-hmm.
So there's our module name.
Yep, that's it.
Comma that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the tuple format is if you have a plugin. And that plugin requires some options.
Okay, so those are like configurations.
Like the Beam plugin on 9, that one doesn't require any options. That'll eventually get renamed to Erlang plugin for the Erlang virtual machine. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so inside this file, I now have a module called changelog.promex.vanity redirects, and that's what we have there. So I assume we're looking good.
Yep, looking good so far. So at the tippity top, we're going to use promex.plugin, which is a module in the library. So it'll be a capital P, capital E.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then you're going to have, so since this is an event metric, you're going to have a function called event metrics. So def event metrics.
Okay.
And right before that, you're going to add @impl_true because it's actually part of the PromEx plugin behavior. And that takes in an argument of options. So you could just put an underscore there since you're not going to be leveraging that.
Okay.
Line 2, the plugin P is capital.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I should have known because my syntax highlighter failed.
And then, so we're going to do event.build, capital E. And so this is going to build a collection of metrics that PromEx will be exporting. And so the first argument here will be like an ID that denotes what group of metrics this is. So you could do, it's an atom. So you could do colon, and maybe you repeat like changelog underscore vanity underscore redirects. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the next argument is a list, and that'll be all the metrics associated with this group. So it'll just be a list of one entry because that's all we're capturing here. And then inside of here, since the data point that we're capturing is a counter, so in another Beam telemetry project called Telemetry Metrics, which is an Elixir project, they define a whole bunch of functions for generating these data points. And I actually automatically import all of those functions when you use promex.plugin.
Okay.
So you could just call the function counter. And the first argument will be that list of IDs.
This one?
Yep, yeah, that one. So you just snatch that whole thing. And then, yeah, from here we just have to fill out a bit of metadata regarding the event. So the next, what you call it? The next argument is a keyword list. And so it'll be event_name.
Event_name.
Yeah, and then we can actually we could probably give it the same value. So the change log.
This one?
Yeah. No,
the list.
Yeah, the list. That works.
Okay.
And then our next keyword value will be a description. And then this is a string of any helpful bit of information.
Changelog vanity redirects. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
do I use this down the road?
So this will pop up on like your help in Grafana and in Prometheus.
All right. I'm trying to make this a little more legible. Not really working.
Do you have your formatter set up in VS Code?
I have an Elixir format. Oh, you mean like mixed format?
Mm-hmm.
No, but I can run it right here.
Oh, so you should definitely get that.
That's just going to auto format for me as I go.
So I have it set up in Vim where like every time I save the file, it'll automatically run it through mixed format.
Oh, nice.
And I don't have to worry about formatting by hand.
I just run mixed format every once in a while before I commit.
Okay.
I should get that set up. So I have a syntax error at this point, so I can't run it.
Okay. All right. So after description, you're also going to have an entry called tags.
Okay.
And then as an atom, it's going to be that tag that we had in the metadata, or that entry that we had in the metadata. So what did we call that? Do we call it name, or if you go back to that other file?
_name. I think we called it podcast. Yeah, podcast.
Okay, podcast. Yep. So just do podcast.
Okay.
I think that's it. We're done.
Vanity redirects line 10.
Is it so?
Oh, I got that closed. I got that closed. I got this function closed. Let's see here. Unexpected keyword end.
Do we have an extra end there?
I got two ends. One's for the module, right? Def do end 10:1. Help me out here, guys. Def module. Oh, do I have a do up here?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I kept looking at the body.
So did I. Mix fumt. Is it fumt or format? I can't remember. I'm so used to the go fumt. I guess it works.
I was actually experimenting with an EEX
mix
format this weekend.
Let's see it change in real time. Go ahead. Oh, there it goes. Much better. Much nicer. Okay. So we're good here?
We're good. We should be able to start up the app now. And as long as we hit that code path, we can go to /metrics or whatever and actually see that counter incrementing.
Okay. So can I actually hit that code path locally?
That was my next question. Can you actually hit that path?
I think probably this will become the most difficult part.
No.
Hold on.
We can do it.
Well, I'll have to set up a Etsy host thing. No,
it's okay.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
Don't worry.
I've got a problem on could not start application.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. That has to be a list of so if you go, so it's tags. No, so you're in the right module. Yeah, tags just has to be a list of atoms. So it'll be a one element list. There you go.
That.
Yeah, that should be good.
Let's see if I can run the server. All right, Gerhard, how would I hit gotime.fm/
you
anything? Okay, our server is booted. Go ahead.
Anything you want it to be.
Oh, you cut out on me. I think it's me again.
I was saying that you do a curl, you curl localhost, and you set a host header. So curl wherever your server is running, HTTP or like localhost 4000, and not HTTPS. Do you have HTTPS?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I might not have started with HTTPS, but I do.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need HTTPS.
Well, I've had trouble with my actual. Now that HTTPS is set up, I've had trouble with the non-HTTPS setup.
Okay, cool.
So this one generally works.
Okay, 4001. That's okay. So get the URL that you would expect to redirect. -K because it's self-signed cert. So curl as you had it before, but -K, skip verification, small k.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. And now you want to do -H for header.
Okay.
Equals single bracket, double, single, double, quote, doesn't matter which one.
Single quote.
Host, okay. Capital. Sorry, just the first part, like title case. Host, it into gotime.fm.
Okay.
Close the single. Yeah. And now put the URL that you expect to work. So localhost 4001 / I don't know, whatever, Apple. Yep. Dude, before we do this, let's do, if you go back up, if you do -O, and let's redirect to dev null, the response, because we don't care about it. You don't want to redirect everything, just -O.
Oh, -O to dev null.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Cool. And -VS.
What's that? Sorry, I was already checking.
-V for verbose, S for silent. Yeah, that's
why would I want it verbose and silent, Gerhard? Come on.
No. You want something to be verbose, but something else to be silent. They're for different things.
You can be verbose. I'll be silent. So we have an error because I think I'm returning something incorrectly. Apple URL undefined module. Oh, you know what we got to do is we have to actually return. We have to be able to. It's chained, so we have to return the podcast and the connection.
Oh yeah, for the non-nil one.
Right.
Actually, for both. So that one needs to be nil.
But now our refactoring doesn't look so hot.
This is what happens when you don't write tests.
Exactly. And the connection is still available though.
But I think you passed that in as the second argument. So we just gotta forward the podcast along.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just thinking through. So here we gotta forward these things.
Yeah. Is the other one okay? The other one is okay with nil, right? If we just return with nil. I mean, I guess it was getting nil beforehand.
It's better than implicit, yeah. So let's see if that one works. Looks like it worked.
Okay, so what did you get? Yeah, what did you get? First of all, what did you get? What was the response? That's what we care about.
Well, it's for two verbose, 404.
So we got to 404. We didn't one pound, did we?
No. So the reason we got a 404 was that we could not find the slug is Apple. The slug shouldn't be Apple. The slug should be go time. So did the request actually include the host header that we said it would? The slug is Apple. The host header should have been gotime.fm. The query was on which line?
Oh, now he's back.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Turns out I'm gonna have to edit this sucker. Because gosh, that's a lot of cutouts. I'm back for now. What I was saying is, I'm not sure when I cut out because I was talking to you guys for a little while before I realized it.
Yep.
Is that it looks like we are not finding the podcast.
Can we see what host you're passing in? Can we see whether you're actually passing in? So which one takes precedence? Does the host header take precedence over the header in the URL? Sorry, over the request URL?
I mean, right here, I called get host, so I could do like a.
Oh, yeah, you want to share your screen again?
Oh yeah, shoot.
Yeah. Unless that puts too much strain on the.
Well, we want to be able
the
to
network.
See. That's almost better. So I could longer.info host right here.
Yes, let's just make sure that we are passing the correct host through. And if not, then we'll use another trick. There's 2.
Recompile. Info, it's blank. Yeah, so the host is blank.
Okay, so the host, okay, so we didn't get it from the header, cool. So now let's do, so in curl again, rather than doing the header, if you remove the header part, let's do -- resolve. And now you do go time.fm. And you do colon. 4.
Okay, it's 4 to 9, and obviously this is untenable. So let's leave everything right where it is. Reschedule to continue next time.
Okay.
Huh?
Hey, we're back. And just like the GameStop stock, you know, if you turn your back for a minute, there's like a whole new section of it. That's not even a very good joke. But we have another person here, and we're wearing different clothes. And that's because the internets were really bad on Monday. We got 12 inches of snow, roughly, in the area. And somehow it got all the way down on the ground and affected my fiber connection. I don't know how that works. But anyways, let's pick up right where we left off. Let's catch up, Lars, because you weren't here on Monday.
Yeah, what have you been up to?
Yeah, so we are trying to add some metrics around our vanity redirects. So we have a bunch of short domains, gotime.fm, jsparty.fm, practicalai.fm. Changelog.com actually works like that as well. I think there's a changelog.fm, but we don't use it. And those are used for on the air. When we want to say, like, you know, go to gotime.fm/123, and that'll get you to the right changelog subsection of the website that GoTime actually lives on. And then we use them in promos and stuff like that. So every clip that we put at the end is like practicalai.fm/this to go there. And we use that when we link out on Twitter and stuff because it's nice branded short URL. And it's part of the application. It just basically, you know, does some smart detecting and redirecting. And what I would love to have is just very basic metrics around whether or not that system is being used and for what purpose. So I called in the pros, the metrics pros, Alex and Gerhard, to help us get that going. We came up with 2 solutions. One was using Nginx logs, and which is already kind of set up. We just need to basically add probably a few new things and then get that going in Grafana. And the other solution was like in the app code with PromEx, write a plugin and have PromEx send the data over to Grafana. And we decided to implement both just because we were having fun. So we started doing PromEx stuff, and then we got stuck somewhere. We were curling, remind me, Gerhard, we were curling to see if the actual thing worked on my local host. Let me share screen. And you were teaching me some curl foo with like host headers and extra flags. So this, whoops. So I actually didn't copy paste that. I thought I did. This one here was the last one we ran.
That's right. So you see the one before we were setting the host header, and that didn't work. So we're connecting to local host, but we're just setting the host header. The other approach is to resolve it explicitly. So curl has this option of -- resolve as a flag. Then we're resolving GoTime FM to one, which port, GoTime FM, which port? It's actually...
It's 4001 on my local host, but do we have to put that in the resolve?
No, so GoTime FM : port 443, because that's the port that we are, it's like HTTPS. And then we're resolving to 127.0.0.1.
So that's the -O or the -VS?
No, it's 443 :
Oh, so there's GoTime.fm : 443 :
yeah, 127.0. Yeah, that's it.
So you think this one's going to work? Let's see if my server's still running. Looks like
Needs
it
more
is.
colons.
Any more colons?
No idea.
That's enough. No,
that's colon enough. Blow.
That's enough.
Okay, so I got a 404.
Right.
And over here, we've got the same thing we had before. Our host header is not set. So in our plug, our vanity domains plug, we just are logging the host here, logger.info, and that's this info, which is empty as we can see. So we still don't have the host. At this point, I start thinking, hey, let's push this code out and just see if it works live. We'll do it live.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We love doing it in production. I really do. So sure, let's do it.
And do that instead of futzing with
Yeah.
curl commands the whole time.
Yeah.
Hey, it compiled, so that means it's good, right?
That's right. It compiled. So
But could you just set up a local vanity domain via your hosts file?
that's the other option that I remember saying on Monday. We could definitely do
TC
that.
host, yeah. I mean, if curl doesn't work, then there must be something else going on somewhere, right?
Do I also have to tell? I might have to tell Phoenix that that's the host name as well when I start Phoenix.
Yes, exactly.
So let's try that real quick.
Yeah, because Phoenix does have a whitelist of host names. Not for development, I don't think, but I'm not sure.
I think that's what it is. In development, it doesn't accept requests that are not going to localhost. That's what I remember.
So we'll add gotime.fm to that.
Yep.
And then I think we have to restart this with host equals like that. Now this won't resolve the other, like my in-browser requests, but it should resolve if I run, and we don't need any of this other crap, right?
Yeah, you can drop the resolve.
And then we'll just say, instead of localhost, we will say gotime.fm.
Maybe don't HTTPS.
No, it's still HTTPS.
You have a self-signed cert locally?
Yeah.
Yeah, then.
Okay.
I need that for HCAPTCHA, basically, which requires SSL to do their testing for the CAPTCHA.
Yeah, I think
which
it
I would
uses
love
under
to
the hood
replace.
the Phoenix Gen Cert stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Which is simply for CAPTCHA use. So I'd love to get rid of that entire thing because it's not working very well anyway. But we're getting an error here. And it looks like it's the same exact problem. So like can't sign slug Apple.
Yeah.
There's no host. So I'm not sure why it's not. I think I pulled that logger statement out because I'm a dork, but I think the same thing here is like the host is not. It's
in OS X. Don't you have to restart something whenever you change the etc hosts file?
No, I don't know. Like
no.
flush
When you
DNS
change
or something
the EGC
like that.
host, no.
Let me ping gotime.fm.
hosts.
No, okay.
Yeah, so that's hitting localhost when I ping. So that's not the problem. All right, we tried it. Now we're gonna give up on it. Let's push
Ship
it
it.
live. Yeah.
Push it into prod.
So let's just review our code real quick before we ship it to prod. Let's at least look at it. So we know that everything compiles and stuff. We're adding the vanity redirects PromEx plugin there, which looks like this, which doesn't have syntax highlight because it's a new file. But we think that looks all right. Episode controller, I think that was when I ran mixed format. So get rid of that one. Don't care. And then we think we're good here. So let's call this.
Hang on, are we using logger anywhere? Are we using logger in that file? You had logger.
I think I took the logger call out, so I can get rid of that.
Okay.
Cool. All right, commit message, collaborate. Lars, help me write this commit message.
Ship it. I guess it's
He's like, what are we doing again?
Experimental vanity redirect metrics.
Experiment. Yeah, that's a word I can't spell. Experimental.
Yeah, it should start with like add, because there's people are very particular about.
I actually do tend to write in the present tense, like add experimental vanity redirect metrics.
Yeah.
All right. And gosh, we run mixed test because we're all going to have to sit here and stare at it.
No, just push it.
Just push it. Gerhard, this is
because the CI runs. The CI runs tests for you. If they fail, nothing will go out.
I'll say, what worst comes to worst, if there's an issue with the metrics collection, that one particular data point will get detached if there's like an exception that's thrown in that block, and then it just won't capture metrics on that, so it won't act on any more of those telemetry invocations. So it won't bring down the app if
All right, so
the data point is borked.
I have Alex's word. The app is not going down. I had to rebase because we
I
had
promise.
some pushes.
Scout's honor.
Scout's honor. All
There's
right.
so many layers between us and like production going down. Like even like the health check doesn't pass. There's like so many things, readiness probes, all sorts of stuff. So no, even if it like, let's say you push it broken, if it doesn't start, it's not going to be promoted.
Well, while we wait, maybe we should hop over to the Grafana.
There's a lot of brave confidence there.
Yeah. You guys are really giving me confidence. I got Alex promise, and I have Gerhard telling me how many things are in the way.
I'm deeply skeptical if that helps.
There's so many.
You and I are skeptical. Then there's so many things that need to go wrong.
I think there's like an appreciation for the system of how everything hangs together, and I'm very confident. And if it will break, then guess what? We get to fix whatever didn't work properly.
There we go.
So you're just excited for testing.
I am for it to break. I actually would like to see it break.
Well, I'm glad you're excited about this.
Do you remember when you took the website down on purpose to see how long it will take for it to Yeah, so.
But you had done that before, sort of,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. So while we wait for that to go up, should we look at where in Grafana then? Are we get to add stuff here, or like how are we going to do the Grafana side?
So what do you think, Alex? Do you think we should start a new dashboard?
Yeah, so we can start a new dashboard.
Okay.
If we just want to sanity check that the metrics are actually getting picked up, we could always just use the Explore tool and make sure that our data is actually popping up.
So for that, we would need to wait for the deploy to go through. What I'm thinking is we can start a dashboard knowing what the query will be, what the metric will be.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's still working, so we don't know if the code's out there. Oh man, I had some test failures. So maybe we're gonna get. Oh, that might be we're not returning. Yeah, we should have ran the test, guys.
Don't worry, CI's got it.
Final last words. We should have ran the test, guys. So it looks like probably as we get involved into that pipeline, we're not passing the right data through. I thought we fixed that already. Where is this coming out? Capture redirect telemetry. Line 2, capture redirect telemetry. That returns, yeah, so we did that. We got podcast and nil. Name not found in slug. Where's it using name? Oh, I know what we're doing. We're actually relying on a key which doesn't exist probably in my test suite because I probably just made those structs. So it's probably just a failure in the test suite and not a failure in the actual implementation. Yeah, so here's my tests. And so we're calling podcast.name to send that along, and we don't have one in either one of my stub or my, what do you call these?
And we sure those are present in a actual production runtime?
Yeah, totally, because the podcast is going to have a name. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So I think that will fix the tests. We can run that. Are there other test failures? I think that's it. All of them is that. So let's run that again. And
I tell you with great pleasure that the CI caught it.
I'm glad you're just enjoying this. So that's good. So we didn't deploy that. So we didn't deploy that code. So now we do what I always have to do is my follow-up commit, where I say fix the test suite.
It goes all downhill from here. Oh dang.
Yeah, exactly. Fix test for vanity domain redirects. Now it takes some confidence to actually commit and push that before the test suite finishes. So let's wait just a second. There you get to see how often my Postgres disconnects, which is pretty much every time I run the tests. If anybody knows why, please let me know.
I think that's when there's some connection still doing stuff, but the process gets killed because the test is done and happy.
Okay.
I've seen
exactly
it
right.
in a few different cases, and like it's fixable, but can be pretty annoying to track down, and it can be inconsistent.
Yeah. I've never been able to figure it out, but there we go. Test pass, so we're good there.
That was exactly my theory for when we see these in prod, Lars, was exactly that. Some connections, they abruptly terminate. These are HTTP connections, and the database connection is still doing things, but the HTTP connection that initiated goes away. So the database connection gets exits because the client terminated abruptly. The HTTP connection, the HTTP request terminated abruptly.
Oh yeah, you could see that from Cowboy kills any request that goes over 60 seconds. In tests, that usually just happens because the test use processes and sometimes they kill them.
Mm-hmm. Click on details. Let's see it. The build in progress. Yeah, so that's Circle CI, and that's this is something new. I didn't know that you've added GitHub Actions tests in GitHub Actions.
Mm-hmm. We also have a mixed format GitHub action, which I got set up, but then I disabled it because there was some stupid reason that it would fail. It would succeed, but it would return with an error code. Like it would exit with an error code, and so it would kill the pipeline as if it failed, even though it succeeded. So I turned it off. But I thought it'd be cool to have it run mixed format all the time, so I don't have to.
Were you running it to actually fix the formatting or just check that it has been formatted?
I think it was just checking.
Yeah,
because that was way simpler
that's what
than
I've
having
usually
it.
Seen.
Yeah, because it's way simpler than having it like do a commit to fix it. But we got it to the point that the formatter would say everything was fine, but return an error code or something, a non-zero return value. It was annoying. So we turned it off. But now Alex has told me you can just get a VS Code integration to run mixed format every time I hit the save button.
Oh, I use Vim, but yeah, you can. There's a VS
Vim
Code
has
one
it. VS
Vim
Code
one.
has it.
Come on. Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a little odd. Yeah, usually if you have that was a -- check formatted, it'll only return non-zero if there's a problem. Unless there's I have seen it before where like if your local development Elixir version is slightly different from CI.
That might have been the issue.
Sometimes the formatter goes through some very, very subtle changes version to version. And so it'll fail in CI when you check formatted, but you locally it's totally fine. So that could be.
I think that might have been the case. It was long enough ago that I don't recall why it was failing. I just remember it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while. I think the Elixir formatter is pretty stable now. I don't think it's changed much recently.
Have you tried running Credo on this code base?
Yeah. I tried it.
Do you have it on by default?
I think it's not on by default.
It's not in your CI? I
don't think so. But it told me it was pretty awesome, I think. I don't recall what it said.
What does Credo do?
So it's a convention checker, basically.
Like a best practices kind of a thing.
Yeah. So it makes like people behave.
It reports how bad your code is. I only have 2 warnings, right? Length items is expensive.
Right.
So not bad.
Like Ruby's Rubocop.
Yeah, exactly.
But for Elixir.
So not terrible, really. Readability issues. That's your opinion, man. The warnings I should probably look at, but
yeah, pipe change should start with a raw value. I have a hard time agreeing with that one. It makes sense in the abstract, but pipe chain should start with a raw value. It's like you can't start a pipe with a function call or anything else than a raw value, and I really do want to do that sometimes.
This is actually concerning. Why is there a
whatever
call?
Credo wants.
Why is there a call to pry on changelog.x line 4?
We in the rabbit hole now.
Oh, because it's a shorthand that I made.
I think you can also, can't you annotate your files to tell Credo to ignore certain warnings?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, I'm sure I could tell it to ignore that. But I just don't do these things. I just ignore it. I think this was a way to pass. I think this was a hack because I like to pry into the middle of a pipeline, and you can't do that when you're like passing arguments, right? So here you can actually just throw pry in, and it will take the argument, whatever you passed, and then call pry and then just pass it on.
What does pry do?
Pry is basically like a thing that stops the process right there and allows you to interact with it. So it's kind of like a poor man's debugger.
Neat. Haven't tried.
Yeah, it's cool. But so I think I was trying to get nifty and doing that, and then I probably never used it. Anyways, do we get deployed, Gerhard? I stopped looking.
Yep.
Publish, build, boom. Okay.
It's running.
Oh, it's running. So let's curl
actually
endpoint
running.
here.
Yep.
So we're going to look for JS Party Line episode 160. Boom. All right. So we've hit it once. Want to hit it a few times? What do we want to do?
We got a 3 out of 2, so that's a good sign. We're getting the redirect. So we didn't break anything
working
too badly.
We didn't break it. Are we detecting it? So now what do I do here, Alex?
So we go back to that PromEx plugin because I can't remember what we gave it an ID of. I think it's the next file over.
Oh yeah, there it is.
The vanity redirects one.
This one, execute changelog vanity redirects, or you want to go up higher?
No, so the actual PromEx plugin itself.
So vanity redirects to the end.
Sorry, there's a lot of vanities in these files.
Yeah, there we go. So so we're looking for changelog _ vanity _ redirects.
This one.
Yep.
So we throw that in here. Do I have to do anything fancy with it?
You can just query for that, and we should see.
Doesn't it?
Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah, okay.
So there we go.
Cool.
It's there.
So we saw, yeah. There we go. Boom.
Look at that. Metrics. 2 unknowns already. I forgot we added the unknown in case somebody hits it with something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So already we've had 2 of those and 1, for some reason, real ones. Okay. Now what? So now we want to take this data and turn it into something that tracks per
now we actually
podcast
want to make
over
a dashboard out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Mm-hmm. So is this a good time to switch share screens, or do you want to continue? How much fun are you having with this?
If you can
do you want to share the fun?
I would absolutely love you to drive this, Gerhard.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Cool.
I like how diplomatic you are. I'd just be like, let me share a screen real quick.
Right. So changelog, vanity redirects, you said yes. Look, we can already have them there automatically filled. So this is exactly what you had.
Yep.
And we see the vanity redirects. So that is the query.
3 JS parties and 23 unknowns.
Did we throw a log statement there for the unknowns?
We added one. I don't know if it's.
Oh, actually, we actually removed the logger. I'd be kind of curious to see what the unknowns are coming from.
Oh yeah, sure. Look at the logger in there.
Same for me. So do you want to quickly, Jerod, put the logger back in to see what the unknowns are while I continue with this? How about that? If you can pay attention to both things, that would be great.
Sure, I can do 2 things at once.
Right. Okay, so I just created a new dashboard. This is grafana.changelog.com, which is the Grafana instance running in the Linux Kubernetes engine together with the site and everything else. Add new panel, the default, I'll just go Prometheus. That is the actual query. So that's how we visualize it. Now, this is, we should group them by podcast, right? We can see all the redirects, app instance. We'll get these labels when there's a new app instance. We don't care about that. Namespace, I don't think we care about that at this point. What we do care about is about this podcast. You want to sum by podcast. So sum by podcast. And if I run this query, it will tell us go time, JS party, podcast unknown. Now, Alex, is this a gauge or is this a counter? I think it's a counter.
I think you made it as a counter. Yeah.
Right. So that means it will always go up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So in that case, rate or irate?
I think for this one, you probably just go with rate.
Yeah, I prefer.
So irate is good for fluctuating data that's going up and down.
Right.
Yeah.
What did I do there? I think the rate needs to be on the outside.
Yeah. Switch the order of operation.
Sorry, you're missing a parentheses.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Lars. That was exactly right. The legend format.
There we go.
We care about the podcast. So let me add podcast there. So now we have the legend, JS party unknown. So we're seeing those. Now these
are
are
the time span up there. It's 6 hours right
last
now.
6 hours is not good. So last 15 minutes, that's much better. Thank you, Lars. So go time, but these are per second. No, per minute. These are per minute. So do you want to see how many redirects there are per minute? Does that make sense?
No.
It doesn't make sense. So what do you want to see, Jerod? How many redirects?
I mean, I think starting with maybe per hour is probably good enough.
Per hour?
Can't you decide that later? Can't you say can't you regroup them?
But yeah, later? But we're deciding now, like, what do I put here?
No, I want to know later. Can I decide later? Yes, but we're deciding right now. So 1 minute is like the minimum threshold, but then I could move it. I could group them up from there.
You could. Yeah. Like if you want to do that, yes. So right now it's telling you that the rate over 1 minute, and this is per second rate, is 0.004, 0.0.
Right.
Is that a good one? Is that a good rate?
0.004.
Yeah,
well, I prefer it be higher.
Of course you do. But what I'm thinking is, does that number even make sense? Like,
no, that's why I said an hour. I said an hour would probably make more sense. But then I started thinking, well, does that mean I can't look at a half hour ever because I've decided this is an hour? It seems not very flexible.
Yeah, we can adjust that. So
okay,
you either set the interval, statically, and then what you tend to have a drop down. You can adjust it, or based on how much you zoom in and you zoom out, there's something called, like, this is a special variable, which is interval. I'm not sure what the difference is between rate interval and interval, but this one right now, I think it's too narrow. So think about it. If we're scraping every 15 seconds, which I think is the case here, if this is, for example, 1 second, well, there's no rate per second because you're scraping every 15 seconds. So the rate needs to be 4 times, it's like a best practice, needs to be 4 times the scrape interval.
So what do you think it should be?
Well, the minimum one is 1 minute, but if it's 15 seconds.
Like 1 hour would be a decent.
I think 1 hour is probably fair.
If we go to 1 hour, we see something like this.
Okay. That's nice linear growth right there.
Right, unknown. Keeps getting more and more redirects.
The same amount, yeah.
Yeah.
You could also do it, but you could do it in like 15-minute intervals then.
I think so. Because you want to, like, we only have, this is just fresh data.
We won't really know until we have it go for a while, because it's obviously not representative, right?
Yeah.
So with rate as well, I think it also depends on the time span that you're looking at. So if you leave it at an hour and you drop down like last 15 minutes and switch it to, say, 3 hours.
Yeah. That's what you're seeing there.
But did it change the scales at all, or?
The scales didn't change because it's fixed. The times is still the same scale.
It's 20. Okay.
But the problem here is, like, so this one keeps going up because the time interval is too big. So it says within this 1 hour, how many redirects per second did you have? Right? Because the rate, as far as I know, is per second.
How many redirects per second?
And then that's why you have such a low number. You have 0.01 redirects per second within that 1 hour, because you need to do it times.
Why does that be per second? Why can't I say how many redirects total in this hour?
How many redirects total
versus per second?
This hour.
Can you use it? You could use an increase in that case, right, Gerhard?
You could, but the problem is, like, it's a counter, right?
It is a counter.
Yeah.
So it's always going up. The number will always go up.
I think if you use the PromQL increase function and give it an hour time range, want to tell us the? I think you could probably just replace rate with increase.
Okay, let me try that.
Might give us what we need.
I'm not convinced, but let's try.
Lars, have you ever done any of this Grafana stuff?
No, I haven't. Seems nicer than I remember Kibana being. That's about as much as I can say about it.
Yeah,
that was actually the inspiration for Grafana. It started from Kibana.
Yeah.
Just improved a lot.
I've poked Alex about it because I have clients that have these needs, but I think they'll be paying someone else to handle it, just like Datadog.
This is a tear going down my face, Lars.
Oh, somebody else like you, Alex, not like Lars. Is that what you're saying?
No, paying someone like Datadog.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh,
Okay,
even
so,
that's double. That's double.
So
tears.
Alex did interpret it correctly. Yeah.
Right. So what I'm seeing with this increase, these numbers, what is this? 8, 16. I went to 1 minute, by the way. So it's more, we have to see a steady rate. What is this? 8 per second?
Go back to explore. Is it really that high? Is somebody just spamming the site?
It's possible.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Right,
I did not do 8 per second though.
Right.
I hit you with a few go times. But
well, I did add that log.
So that's how many redirects we had since it started, right?
So that just keeps going up because we keep getting more.
Exactly.
And 95 of those are unknown.
We're getting like
got 20.
Teddy one.
Yeah. Go time is me.
There you go. JS party was me. The change log someone just naturally hit, apparently.
Yeah. So if we go rate and if you go 5 minutes, that minute doesn't make sense. So like within that 1 minute, to me, this doesn't make sense. The reason why it doesn't make sense, this rate, is because I would expect it at one point to go down, right? Like once we reach a certain number of, or no, is this still continuing? Oh, yes, they're still continuing, aren't they?
I think
they're just hitting
rate,
us.
if it's a linear increase, it'll kind of flatten out the curve because it's a consistent delta between the time intervals.
So I mean that looks very programmatic. What's going on right there with these unknowns, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's your health check.
Which
Gerhard, maybe it's our health check. Could it be
possible?
Oh, that is
something like a health check or like a podcast RSS scraping.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be hitting these domains, I wouldn't think.
No, they wouldn't.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think it makes sense that it's unknown in that case, right? Because if the health check is coming from inside the Kubernetes cluster,
this sounds like awesome.
It's just an IP address.
This turned into a scary movie.
The health check is coming in from inside the cluster.
Oh no!
Where is it? We're screwed.
So
wait, it isn't the PromEx Grafana scraping endpoint.
So okay, so there's a few things which hit the website consistently.
Yeah.
One of them is the health check, which is like the readiness check, actually the readiness probe, but that goes to /health. That's how that's configured. There's pingdom, but that's
changelog.com/health, or is it an IP address?
Yes, changelog.com.
So that should not hit.
Sorry. The readiness probe goes to the pod directly, so it's like the internal IP address.
So that might actually be it, because we are capturing all requests, and if it's a changelog.com request, we bypass this code path. If not, then it's going to hit this code path, and it's not going to find a podcast to match it, and it's going to pass it on and log it. So I think unknowns is our health check.
And look, period every 15 seconds. So our health check, it's hitting it every 15 seconds, and it's going to host
it. Unknown is on 15. Look at that.
Yeah.
So there it is.
50 per second.
All right.
That's
so
it.
Mystery solved.
Hang on. No, that's 15.
15 per interval. It's a minute, right?
Interval, yes. And it's 1 second.
Yeah. So
it's 1 minute.
So that's us.
Okay.
Phew.
So how do
hitting yourself?
Yeah. It's a self-abuse. So let's forget about that. We can ignore that somehow.
We should filter this one out, by the way.
Yeah.
We should be able to filter the health check out.
Yeah, no problem.
In the code.
Totally.
Yes, actually, who's got the code open? Do you have it open, Gerhard?
I do.
Well, yeah. Jerod has it too.
Oh, can you open up endpoint.ex?
But I could pull it now since it's all on my end. PromEx. Yeah.
No, just endpoint.ex.
Endpoint. No, hang on. Endpoint.ex. Yep.
There we go.
What are we looking for?
Okay. So yeah, line 50. Yeah, so that guy, so that'll generate telemetry events for all requests coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's the PromEx plug. I meant line 51. So that one will generate Phoenix metrics for all requests coming in. Mm-hmm. So if you look at our the Phoenix dashboards, those probably have like a whole bunch of health check calls coming in as well. So we could add a filter there. And I think on the PromEx docs, I actually have like a hint. It's like if you want to omit health check and metrics calls, insert this snippet. But this one probably needs like encode changes to the actual like health check controller and whatnot.
Okay, what am I looking for, Lars? Oh, sorry, Alex.
Here,
put me on the spot. I didn't write this.
Come on, Lars. What are we looking for?
Yeah. I would look for a hex link. I don't know if it's published into hex
look
yet.
for yes, this is on hex. Look for unplug. I don't know if it's
the file.
Oh no, just like Control F the README or Command
Okay.
F. You're on a Mac.
Unplug. There's no unplug.
Womp womp. All right, go to lib.
Or plug. There's plug. Lib.
Yeah, I think I have it.
Lib.
Yeah, go to lib. PromEx. And then open up that second to last file, plug.ex. And now Control F for unplug. Oh, okay, I did add it there. So line 30.
Make it a little bit bigger, Gerhard. I can't read it.
Yeah, so that snippet is for like if you want to secure your metrics endpoint, and your Prometheus instance is sending you like an auth header. You can secure the endpoint, but you can use the same mechanism for omitting telemetry events from endpoints that you expect to be regularly hit.
Okay.
But I think for this particular case, we actually have to open up the controller, like for a health check.
Okay.
So health check is a plug that I think Gerhard, you wrote that plug.
And
it actually
okay.
it actually halts the response pipeline if it gets called.
Okay.
So I think we just need to call it in
Where's that?
higher up in the
changelog web controller.
There's a plugs directory under changelog web.
Yep, plugs.
Health check.
Health check. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, okay. So is that vanity code path hit?
Yeah, that's the question is where is this getting called in the pipeline, in the router?
In the router, this plug.
Yeah, I don't see it in the code when I'm searching for health check.
Look there, it's right at the top socket. Line
Oh, it's in the endpoint. Not in the router. Okay. So
it's the only plug that's added with parentheses.
Yeah, it's Gerhard.
Very nice.
Nick,
it's special.
Don't blame me.
Gerhard added that. I'm not blaming you. I'm just stating facts.
No, I did.
So if it's in the endpoint, do either of you guys know Phoenix well enough to know like when does our router get called at like the end of the endpoint? So
yeah, it's usually the very last line of the endpoint. So
our vanity redirects is where then? Is it in my router? Where did I put that? Yeah, vanity domains is in the router. So the health check should get called and halt the pipeline before it ever hits vanity domains.
Line this one. Yeah, that's right. So you shouldn't get to here is what you're saying, Jared, right? You shouldn't get to line 51.
If the order is the way that it does things.
Yeah, so the health check is like plug is right here at the top. I think that was like one of the reasons for it.
Yeah,
so
I assume these plugs get called in order. I think I'm not 100 on that, but I'm pretty close.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, you get called in order, and then if the construct is halted, it'll effectively just no op every other plug.
Yeah, so we shouldn't actually ever be hitting our vanity domains plug.
Maybe it's another call then. Maybe it's not health check.
Yeah, well, I did put the logger statement in there. If you guys want to look at the logs now, we'll probably have
off to Loki.
Okay, so you put the logger in.
But couldn't it be every 15 seconds also sounds like the PromEx endpoint?
Oh, like the metrics endpoint?
Yeah, that metrics endpoint. That was my first
that should also halt the plug.
So 06205. I can see
Yeah,
that.
I'm looking at PromEx now. I halt the pipeline as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of strange. But we'll be seeing what it is here real quick.
Okay, so hang on.
Was the PromEx plug before or after the new custom one? The vanity one?
So if vanity is in router, so if you go all the way down to the bottom, Gerhard.
Yeah.
Router's the last one.
Router's the last one. So vanity is in router. Yeah. So the mystery continues.
Let's have a look at the logs, because we do have the logs and we can see very quickly where this is coming from. So if we go to explore here, if we go to, and we'll go to
so
the
many
Nginx.
things.
That's okay, we'll find it. Ingress. So if you look at Ingress, this is what sits in front of the app, and all requests go through here. So what are we looking for? What sort of request are we looking for?
Well,
we have all of these here. That's all of them. So I need to filter this a little bit, because is it a get to a specific route? What am I looking for?
Well, aren't we looking for the log statement that I put in?
We're looking for the log statement. Okay.
Can we just look for that?
Right. We could just look for that. In that case, we need to go to the app. That's prod. This is the app itself. So these are all the app logs. Okay. And which is the log statement, because we have a lot of logs.
Yeah, it's going to say vanity redirect.
Okay, so we filter by vanity.
Capital V, capital R. Sorry.
That's okay.
I use
vanity.
English.
Is there an underscore?
No, just a space. Good old fashioned English.
Right. Okay. There is nothing unexpected string on query. Vanity redirect. Yep.
Oh.
CDN.
Changelog.fm. So that's.
Oh, yes. The CDN does health checks as well.
Ah.
So it is health checks, but it's CDN health checks.
There we go.
But what are they checking? I guess, why is the full?
So this
I guess
is
we only logged the
preparation.
host. I should have logged the entire freaking request.
So this is in preparation for us putting the CDN in front of the website. We need to configure health checks on the CDN to know when the backends are offline. So when it detects the backends being offline, it will serve cached content.
All right. So mystery solved. We can get that figured out. Let's move on and we can just have that, steady line for a while. We don't need to figure out a way of ignoring it right now, because I'd rather focus on the actual.
What was the other one? It was changelog.fm.
Yeah, which is the changelogs vanity domain.
Yeah. So that one should probably get figured out, because that sounds like something that you probably want to track, right?
Well, yeah. So that one is not actually, I think, probably attached to the changelog podcast record, because we don't really use that one, because we also will redirect changelog.com/403 to episode 403.
But didn't we have like one or two requests for a changelog vanity domain according to the metrics? So it might
yes,
just
but
be
that would be. Yeah, so that is a bit of a mystery.
Then there's also the www redirect that got borked.
Yep. That one should be redirected by a different code path, I believe. So yeah, there's a couple of things to figure out here, but I think they're probably less interesting.
Now, we could continue down this way, or maybe now it's time to switch to the Nginx logs, right? Because for Nginx logs, I think there's so little we have to do.
How much time does everybody have?
We try that. I can go for another half an hour, maybe even longer.
Yeah, I'm good for a half hour. I got something else coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll drop it full hour. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's switch to Nginx logs. So this is one way of doing it. We did that.
Yep. We can continue like with this dashboard. I don't think there's. I need to do like some more summing here, by the way. But like this is if I refresh it, because we have different apps, and that's why we need to do like a better sort of summing. Anyways, but it's all like querying the same metrics, right, and visualizing the same metrics. Now we're switching to Nginx logs. I did a little bit of preparation as I was waiting. What we need to do is, so we're using Nginx in front of the app, and we're using the ingress Nginx, which is the most popular ingress in Kubernetes. What we want to do is configure the log format so that when we log, we add the host. Because right now, if you look at Nginx logs, and we had a little bit of a preview, was it here? Yes, it was here. So I'm going to keep this in my buffer. Ingress, Nginx controller. So these are the logs that we have right now. And you can see that in the get, what we're not seeing is the host. So we want to see the host as well as the URL so that we can group them by the vanity domain, right? So we can count by vanity domain. So I don't think I would change the request itself. We need to figure out where to put the host. So maybe before this get, I think it kind of makes sense. Host, and then the get is on that host. So we have the log format. This is the default one, and we can adjust it. So what we want to add is, do we have host here? We don't have host here. Anyways, one of the, let me see, did I make a note of that? Nginx config map, yes I did. This is a list of all the different variables that Nginx supports. The one that we care about is host, GH. You can see it was even my history. Host name for the request line, or host name from the host request header, or the server name matching the request. So that's the variable that we want. Okay, all I did was to copy the default one, the default. Actually, you know what? Let me start with that as a default log format. Copy this, drop it in here. No, drop it in here. And this needs to be as a single line. It's the config map. Okay, don't know why I deleted what I had before, because this was already like in the right format. It is the same one. Let's see if I paste it here. This is the one. It's exactly the same one. All I did, I just did some, what do you call it? Some spacing. Okay, so we have the request, we have time local. So going back to our, we have time local, then we have the double quotes, and then the request. So what I'm thinking is just to drop a host here. And that's it. That's the only change that we need to make to get those hosts in. So now we have to apply it. Apply this change in production, live. Fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong. It's just a bit of drama. Nothing will go wrong. All right.
I'm less worried about this one.
Okay, Nginx. I just have to remember my make target. I'll be fine.
It's kind of the opposite of a car, you know. If I'm in a car, I'm actually more nervous when I'm not driving. But
right,
when I'm coding, I'm more nervous when I am driving.
Right.
How about you guys?
I always love to drive.
I prefer to drive than to ride, unless I really trust the person.
But look at that. YAML could not find expected. Problem in the config map.
I should be driving.
Yeah. No. Right. So
never trust other people to write your YAML.
That's right.
That's the problem there. Look, it's the semicolon. That's it. Log format. Save it. But now that I look at this, hang on, how does this work? This doesn't look like valid YAML. What the hell? Okay, so how do we configure that?
I think your colon got pushed off when you pasted. So if you go back to that, is the key so the key has to be log format upstream info.
That was my starting point. So I think I need to go here.
Okay, the text is a little small. I couldn't see. There's no underscore between log format and upstream info.
Yeah, log format upstream. Look, log. So this is slightly different. What I copied was the wrong thing. Log
format upstream colon.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay.
And then the actual log format. And we can go fancy. We can do like multi-line and stuff like that. But this is what we want. Cool.
Yeah.
Now we have the log format, and it ends with a single quote, which is what we want. Cool.
Beautiful.
Applied. Applies all the things. Yep. There you go. So now Nginx will go through. Everything needs to go through. We have K9s. Let's look at all the pods. We should see Nginx rotate nicely. Ooh, Postgres operator. That's a bad one. Let's just ignore that for now.
That's a bad one.
It's a bad one. Let's just ignore it for now.
These aren't the pods you're looking for.
Right. So what I will do, I'll just jump on one of these just to verify the config to see if that was applied correctly. So S for shell, and I need to go etc. So this is on one of the pods, Nginx. There it is. And what we're looking for is this will get bundled into a single one, which is nginx.conf. I think what I want to do is log format. Let's see what it is in nginx.conf. Okay, so look at that. We have that host, which is not what we want. So I think when I pasted it the second time, the host is in the wrong place. So yeah, that's okay. There it is. See, that was the one that we had it before. So it was just before. Let's put a host. There we go.
No, the slash. I think the request still had a slash before, though, didn't it? Make sure,
because it's part of the make sure. Okay.
Yeah,
I heard it last. Where is it? Request length, path URI. We have the URI. Request method, HTTP refer. It's not here, but if we go to the Nginx, if we go to the request, sub request.
I mean, the one that you copy pasted from the other page, the full default format, here. I thought had it.
Request.
No. All right.
Doesn't have it. Cool. Okay, so I would expect this to have been applied. Where is it? Yeah, that was applied. I'm still here. Let me just get out of this container. Let me go back in. Grep log format etc nginx nginx.conf. And now we can see it's in the right place.
All right.
It's like a nice confirmation. So that's all done. What about the logs? Let's look at the logs. Run query. There you go. Changelog.com. So now we see the thing which is being queried, right? It's right there. Cool. So we need to extract this because we need to count how many of these do we get, right? And then break it down by that. So for that, I think I would bring out some regex. And I need to remind myself what this is from PromQL.
Now everyone knows regex by heart. This is
LogQL. That's okay. I've spent many years. Web scraping has something to do with it. It will not be mentioned again, just once. Cool. So the problem is that the logs that we ship. It is. The problem is that the logs that we ship, you see they are, it's not even like log format, it's like one of the RFC implementations, but they're not structured logs. And the easiest thing would be to change this to structured logs, but it will break all our dashboards, and we don't want that. And because we don't have structured logs, we need to figure out where exactly is the URL. So now that I've done this, I'm thinking, what about we add host equals, because it will make the regex easier. So we need some sort of an anchor to find the host quicker. Otherwise, we have to look at what other lines are around it. Sorry, what other characters are around it.
Well, it will always start with bracket space and
bracket space. But is that the only bracket space? There is another bracket
and then
here.
It will end with space.
So look, there's another one here in the same line.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you see that? So
you just put it at the end instead of where it is. Then you just anchor to the end of the line.
We could do many things.
You already figured out this way, didn't
I think
you?
this is the easiest.
He's already got this regex written.
It's like a TV chef. Just to save some time, I've already.
Look, like, come on, guys. Format. Throwing a wrench.
He's just going to bring in an entire new Kubernetes cluster. Like, to save some time.
Yeah.
Gerhard's been writing this regex all week, and he's got it crafted, and we're trying to throw a wrench in it.
Log format, that's what we want. No, I just know these basics well. Cool. So let's run this again. So we have host equals and then the actual host. And then we pipe it through log format. And then what it's going to do, if we pipe it not regex, we do log fmt. It will parse it. And if I do that, you'll see it gets the label. See, this one already has it. Everyone parsing some of the logs. Yeah, I don't think it likes that log. Anyways, we'll see it. We'll see it. Look, host, parse field, changelog.com. So it extracts the host directly. What I don't understand is why doesn't it like, oh yes, I know why it doesn't like it, because we only just introduced this host.
A bunch of them don't have it.
And exactly, that's why. So host it gets, the rest it doesn't get. So that's okay. We'll go for log format. And now we need to sum by the host. So we go in here, there's a few functions. Let's see, which ones do we get? Sum rate. It is a rate, count over time. I think that's exactly what you wanted. How many of those do we have, like in a specific minute, right? I think that's what you wanted, Jerod. So I think count over time is what we want. Foobar 1 minute. And I think that's it. Let's go here. So job, count over time. We want to count these and we want to count them over 1 minute. And can I do by host? I think that's like a sum, which will come later. You know what? Let me just do count over time. Let's see what this gives us. Unexpected. What did I do wrong? I only have one. I only have one there. And I need two there. Because one is for the log format and one is for the thing itself. Okay. Use a label filter. Yeah, so I need to basically say the unwrap part because some of them are failing because not all of them have the host. So I want to say filter out all of them which cannot be formatted. There we go. And now we see how many of these do we have? How many redirects we have within that 1 minute. Okay. But now what we want to do is get them by host. Right, so we group them by host. We see how many hosts we have.
Yep.
So let's see, how do we do that? Sum without app. Sum, I think I want sum by. That's what I actually want. But what I'm wondering is, do we get that? Log format. I think I need that inside. Hang on, let me go back to this one. Go back to this one. This was the starting point. I can successfully reloaded log format. That's not what I want because I want those which have a host. Log format. Why am I only seeing these? Something is not right. So before I was getting all these, so even these are getting, we're getting errors parsing them.
Can you click on the first one and it'll show you the error?
Oh, I think I know why. So the problem is it's expecting this one to be all in log format and it's not. The only thing that we've done, we've added a host equals. And adding a host equals doesn't make it a log format. Log format tries to do what it can, it extracts it, but no, we still have to use the regexp. That's the problem. Okay. Regexp. Let me remember that it has some funky things around regexp.
I need to be heading out, but it's been
all right, Lars. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Guys.
Yeah.
All right, Lars. Cool.
Later, Lars.
Have a good weekend.
See you next time.
Yeah, you guys too.
Bye. Okay. So this is what we want. We want to capture it, and then we want to sum it by that. So regexp, this will be the host, and the format will be, let's see, host equals. Let's see what that gives us. Run query. There we go. So now it gets the host separately like this.
Mm-hmm.
That was, so if I call this, for example, I don't know, host, you just call it foo, something completely different. If I call this foo, you'll see that when it parses this line. Oh.
Well, you named it host on the other side in the capture.
Oh, yes, I did. Sorry. My silly. Host. This is foo. Run query. I would expect it to be foo is change log.
Parse field still shows up.
It shows up automatically. I was surprised. Maybe it just does it automatically. You don't have to do anything. When you do host equals, that would be very clever.
Yeah.
So maybe just simply by having host equals, it just does that and you don't have to do any of the regex ping. Okay.
That would be convenient.
There it is.
Yeah, that's what it seems to do. Okay. So that's cool. So let's see now if we do sum by host. That's what I want to do. And I think I need to do an interval here. 1 minute. Run query, no unexpected range. I think, no, hang on. Sum by doesn't get in the interval.
Too many parentheses now.
Sum by. I know that by needs one, but I think sum needs something else. So sum is not enough just to use sum on its own. Sum by host, and then you have a rate or something like that. Then you have sum over time, the sum of all values in the specify. No, we don't want that. We want count over time. So sum by host, which we want, but they want count over time. Count inside of it, which is what we had before. So sum by, and inside you have count over time. That makes sense. Okay, so inside we have count over time. This one, and it's 1 minute. Query. Too many. I'll pull these side by side as I'm doing this because I'm switching between too many things. Okay. Where was it? Count over time. So we have sum by. We want to sum by host. Look at that. It's exactly this one. I didn't even realize that. So we want to sum by host, which is correct. And then inside, we have to do the count over time. Yeah, count over time. We have the job. And what is the
1
time?
minute has to be inside that parenthesis.
Yep, that's exactly right. Thank you, Jared. That was it. And then I need to close this twice. Run query. There we go.
Boom.
But we have a lot of...
And we need to know which host it is.
Yeah, this sounds like all logs. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm wondering. Why don't we see the host? And it's a single one.
Is this... So this is all requests summed by host.
Right? It is, yes. But we should see separate ones, right?
We should, if the hosts are different.
Yeah, I mean, unless there haven't been any vanity requests in the past however long.
Yeah, what's your current time frame? I can fake a few here.
So look, we can do count over time, but when we do count, I still think we need to filter it by host. So look, yeah, that's the one. But no, because we need to. It's almost like we need to split them by host, right? So that we need to split them by host, and that's what we need to count over time. Because the problem right here is like, look, if you only run this, we see all the requests, all of them, but we are not grouping them by host.
Right.
So that's the bit which you're missing.
I thought that's what the host thing did. Sum by. Is there group by?
Well, that's a sum by.
I'm asking if there's a group by.
Sum by is the group by. Sum by. It doesn't make any sense.
Sum by, and then the by property is the group.
Yes.
But then you should also capture the by, right? You just sum them, but you don't know what the actual host is, then it's worthless.
Okay,
I'm distracting you. Keep finding your thing.
Sum over time. I can see that these quantile over time and do cluster by path. So I think we need something that, like here, for example, sum by org. The problem is when we have it here like this, we see the parsed field host. But when we do sum by, so if we do sum by host, And then we take, well, that's it. Sum by host. I think this one needs to be wrapped because that's the query which we're summing by host. But there's another sum over time or something like that.
Right. It's like there's a function inside that function, and you're not putting anything in there.
Exactly.
Try that. Try the sum over time on the query itself and see if that.
This one here, sum over time. Okay.
Yeah, I would just take that function and wrap whatever's in the curly braces there. I'm curious.
Sum over
if that
time.
does anything.
Yep. Oh, did I miss one? Sum by, that's okay.
Looks good.
That's okay. That's okay. And I'm closing too, so.
Yeah, it looks good.
Right.
Maybe you can't pass it like that.
Did I miss one? I didn't see it. Sum by, that's okay.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks good to me.
Apparently you can't just pass in that query. You have to pass in a function or something. Oh, you are passing in the function, but that function takes something else that has to have a range. Like they have a 1 minute range in that one, the sum over time at the end.
That's it. Thank you, Jerod. That's exactly what it's missing.
Oh, eagle eyes. Well done.
Without unwrap.
So now we need to unwrap it. Cool.
What's that mean?
We're getting there. Unwrapped examples. Unwrap request.
Wait, no, it looks like the time interval. Right, so is the time interval applied to the sum over time, or is it a parameter to the unwrap bytes processed?
It should be unwrap bytes processed.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not that well versed.
Unwrap
Loki GraphQL.
We're going to unwrap the host, and let's unwrap the host by 1 minute.
Oh man, if this works, I'm gonna be impressed. It doesn't even look like it's gonna work, syntax wise.
No, I think the curly brace is off. So the curly brace needs to be on the query, not at the time.
True. After controller, the close curly. There you go.
There.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Oh, not impressed.
That's a bigger stack.
I was so ready to be impressed. Yeah,
but hang on. I think this is
terribly wrong.
I think this is the error. It's the whole parse format and the error, right? Like for example, here we have the log format.
Okay. So
if we do the log format, and now we're going a bit back, which is what we had before.
Yeah, 2 pipes in a row though.
2 pipes. Yeah, that's not good. 2 pipes in a row. Now it's the error that we have to go back to, right? An error equals nil. I mean, that's like a short form of that.
Do any of us know what wrap and unwrap is actually doing? Because I do not.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was saying before. I don't know Loki's query language very well.
Let me remind myself.
This is all Loki, right, Gerhard?
This is all Loki, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all
I don't know
Loki.
Very well.
So
how do I know like when it's Loki,
range,
when it's Prometheus, when it's Grafana?
Right. So you look at the source. You see the source in here. The source in this case, it's logs.
Logs are Loki.
Which is Loki, yes. If you use, for example, Prometheus, this is, by the way, Grafana Cloud. If you use prom, then you get metrics back.
Gotcha.
So that's the metrics API. This is the logs API.
All right, fair enough.
And these queries are executed against that API. Okay, so unwrap the range. Where was it? Unwrap. Extract labels as sample values instead of log lines. So in our case, the functions, duration, seconds, and bytes. So these are the 2 supported ones. Durations, and then so that we can calculate them together, like sum them, do whatever, max over time, min. But actually, that's a good point because we don't have such values, right? So we wouldn't need to really unwrap it. We don't have seconds. We don't have bytes.
No.
We're not trying to process those types of values. That's actually a good point. We don't need to do that. So what I'm surprised is that I was expecting this to work, because it's sum by host, which is a parsed field, which we already have. We can see it's parsed. And then we do a rate over the one minute. And we want to find the rate for 1 minute by host. So I was expecting that to work.
Mm-hmm.
So going back,
for some reason, it munged them all into one.
Yeah.
There was no separation by host. It was just like, here's your matching logs over time.
Count over time, exactly. We had the job, count over time. So this was it. And we had 1 minute. And then we sum by host. Now, the problem is that the count over time, for some reason, it drops the host part, right? So if I run this, we see this line, which is what we had earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the sum by host, you see it's empty. And that means that the host label is not set on the values. So if we drop the sum by, which is the group by, if you run it, we can see the values that we get, right? And what these are the different instances of the Nginx, right? There's like 3 Nginx instances. That's why we have 3 lines. Orange one, yellow one, and then a blue one.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 Nginx instances, and you can see them here, right? So we are seeing how many logs these instances are generating every minute. But that's not what we want to see. We want to see how many, group the logs by host. So the logs that have a host, group them all where the host matches. That's what we're trying to achieve.
I'm curious if we switch to structured logs, because it looked like you could pipe to JSON, and if the log line is valid JSON, maybe we can pluck out the host that way.
But so yes, we could do that. It would break all the dashboards. But the thing is, the host, it's already a parsed field.
Right. So that's why it's host. Maybe you get parsed fields a different way than you get labels. Maybe you get parse fields like with a $sign host or like some other way besides simply referencing.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, or maybe parse fields is just for the purposes of that output, and it's not actually something you could reference in a query. Right.
Maybe so. You're saying maybe you would need to regex and grab it in order to make it a label.
Yeah, maybe because that only pops up when you expand that log line.
That's a good point.
Maybe that's
Gerhard.
Just on the fly processing that.
I think foo got added as a label when you had that regex in there.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. Yes. Okay. So with that in mind, regex, going back to the regex spot we had, I think this was the starting point for the regex.
Mm-hmm.
It was host equals
host.
And this was host. It's actually a good point. I think I got too excited. That's what exactly.
Because we're like, hey, it's there for free. And it's like, well,
exactly.
It's there, but it's not actually there. So it is. Now it's a label.
Now it's
going to work.
And we also want a dot, right? And actually we want to say it's either a word or an actual dot, one or multiple times to match the host. Run query. There you go. So let's see. Yeah, look at that. Host is now changelog.com. Okay. Count over time. 1 minute. I don't think this is going to work. I think this one, we need to put it in multiple brackets. So it's this in the bracket and and then 1 minute. Let's run that. Look at that.
Now you pass that to sum by host.
Now I pass everything, but do I have the host label? Yes, I do. The host is always changelog.com though. That's okay.
So this is the aggregate of all the ingress's logs. So now you just need to collapse those into a single data point 8 track over time for each host.
Exactly, which we already have. Yeah. So we can see that we have host. See, it's one of the labels like Grafana changelog.com. Can you see it there? Okay, it's a bit difficult to see here. Let's see how to make it easier. Look there, host.
Yeah.
Changelog Grafana, changelog Grafana. So we have it here in the table.
We should also be seeing some go time ones, right?
We should.
JS Party I did
but
recently, but
show all 23. We're only seeing a subset here in the table. We're
right.
not seeing all of them.
Can you also add a filter on the response code? Because we only want 302s.
Yes.
But
yes, we could do that.
That would
but
reduce
we need
the noise, but we can get this working first, I suppose.
Yeah. And then we can, we need to extract that as well. So let's see how we do that. So let me take this.
Yeah, I gotta drop off, guys. But
awesome.
I really want to see like a screenshot of this working.
Okay.
I wish I could stay on.
All good. Thanks for hanging out.
All right, guys. Have a nice weekend.
See you, Alex.
See you.
Bye.
Okay. So we have host. I think what I would like to do is maybe do the same thing for the response status, because look, it's like in between. It was very difficult to get this before. So I'm thinking of duplicating the response status. So we have host, response status. So we just keep adding things. Okay, so let's go back here. So we have host, we have status, and where status equals status. No. Okay. Apply the config. We don't need to test it now. We know it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
This gets applied. There we go. That's all good. And now if I can also do live, but it's tailing them and we have a lot of logs. Right. So maybe stop the.
Maybe don't do that.
Yeah, it's just so many logs we get. Look, but we get status here. Status equals 200.
There you go.
So you can see it right there. Okay, so regex, we have that host, and we can have another one, which is host. Let me go back to their example. Right, so I think this looks at the actual, like it expects there to be a space, so we need more than one space, right? So one or more spaces, match anything else, and then we'll do this. Actually, no, status is right after this. That's the convenience. So host space, and then we have status equals status, and the status is just a digit. So we can drop that one or more times, run a query. Okay. We're still just grouping them by, okay, we can see the status was extracted there.
Right.
You can see status 200, shell 24, but it is always the same. No, we have there some 304s. Okay. So now if we status want to pipe it to status equals 302, you said, right?
302, yep.
So now because we're getting that, status is 302, run query. And there we get just a subset of those. Look at that. Beautiful. We only get the 302 statuses.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We
There's
get
the JS
our
Party
hosts,
one I just did.
JS Party. There you go. Grafana, all those. Cool. So this is how we get our in the Explorer. And from this, we need to convert this into a dashboard because we're limited how to visualize it in Explorer. So going back to here, we can go to manage dashboard. Now create a new dashboard. And by the way, this is Grafana Cloud. So this is different from what we had before because we ship logs to Grafana Cloud.
Right.
Add a new panel. Data source, that's very important. So we are working with logs in this case for this panel. We enter our query, and there we go. That's where we have our lines. Sorry, our metrics. So now what we want to do in the legend, you see it's rather busy. We have like a lot of things. What we care about is the host. So if I do that, you can see all your hosts there. JS Party, changelog.com, grafana.com. So, but look, we have multiples.
Yeah,
so now we need to do a sum by. We need to do like a sum by. Sum by host. Oh, I think it's this one. I need to wrap this again. Yep, that's right. There we go. And now we have only the hosts. Nice. So within that 1 minute, right? Because we are using count over time. That's how many redirects you had per minute in that 1 minute. And we can alter, like we can add more than one.
Right.
So these are not really redirects. These are 302s. And I suppose that's the difference.
The 302 redirects.
Yeah, 302 redirects.
Yeah, so they are redirects, but they're additional. They aren't necessarily the vanity domain redirects.
The vanity ones, yeah.
Like the changelog one and the Grafana one could just be other redirects. So what we would do is we would end up ignoring like a couple of those domains.
Right. And we can do that by doing that here. So we're saying ignore if the host is, for example, changelog.com.
Yeah.
Right. And then what did I do wrong? Status.
To pipe it, maybe?
I thought I did. Okay, let me see. Let me see Loki. So this is the filtering stuff at the beginning. Not equal to. It's the log pipeline. It's basically these piping. Log line does not contain. So I have it here, right? Status is that.
So after your regex, you have a pipe and then you have status, but you don't have a pipe on your next. Do you have to pipe it and then say not equal to, or it's just status and not equal to? It's like the same. So, the same statement or a different statement?
So do you see here? It says log line contains.
Right.
So we're saying log line contains status equals 302. Same as before. And host. I don't think the problem is this. I don't think it's that. No. Expecting string unexpected.
Do they have an example of a not equals? They're wrapping it all in double quotes.
Yes, that's when you do strings, but we don't do strings. We do
labels.
The labels, exactly. So like log format here, duration. So I'm wondering if that's what we need. Actually, we need to
host not equal to.
Yeah, host not equals to. That's what I'm thinking as well. Yeah, it's
bang
equals, and this needs to be a string.
There you go. That should do it.
Come on. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Cool.
There you go. So now we have one. And I think we should do Grafana as well, right? Because we don't care about Grafana.
Get rid of both of those.
Host not equals to Grafana dot changelog.com. There we go. So we only see JS party redirects, 1 per minute.
Let me do a go time real quick and see if it pops in there.
Yeah, just keep hitting it. So let's go last 30 minutes. Decimals.
Connection refused.
Connection
refused.
refused.
We have a typo. Gotime.fm.
Gotime.
Huh. Do we just go down?
No.
No, it works for jsparty.fm. When I do GoTime.
I just did GoTime.fm and it worked. GoTime.fm. Yep.
Try it from curl because sometimes your browser will cache that.
Yep. Response status. Response headers. That's what I want to do. Response headers, GoTime.fm. This will show me all the headers. Yeah. It's getting at 200. And it shows me the entire chain.
Is there a 302 to changelog.com/GoTime right before that?
Yeah. So we see there 302.
Something's funky with mine. All right, fair enough. We'll hop back to Grafana now and see if they're in there.
Yep. Look at that.
Yeah, practically AI.fm works. Cool.
There we go. Cool. So we have the panel. Let's give it a name. Let's give it vanity redirects. Basically it. I can make this a table so that we have the legend. Where's the legend? As table to the right, we put it here and we can do max average, current, total. You can see how many redirects you have.
Cool.
That's a bit weird. Why do we have 59?
3 max, current 3, total 59.
That doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Okay, I think total is broken.
Pay no attention to that. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, literally. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Cool. So having done both now, and both had their sort of workarounds and hiccups, seems like the PromEx side requires maybe some more filtering that we don't have. That was pretty easy to achieve here.
Yeah.
This probably also requires some more work if we want to do things like knowing which route they're going to and stuff, but PromEx would also require that. I don't know which one do you think is the best. We've done them both. They both were pretty straightforward.
Yeah, for some reason this to me feels easier. It feels easier because you don't need to do any code changes to the app, right, to track these. You already have a lot of details in the logs. I know that, for example, in the app, for example, we slice and dice all the metrics when it comes to requests. Right. Well, we don't have to. We can use this to slice and dice as much as we want. I mean, this is how easy it was. The practical IFM, we just called it.
Just got used.
LogQL can be a bit different. So I'm more familiar with PromQL, but it's not crazy difficult. So I think it's okay. Not to mention that there's logs that we will need to parse and understand and process and do whatever, which come from the CDN, and you can't do that in the app, right?
Right.
Especially when it comes to like the volume, right, that we have. So I think this could be the beginning of starting to derive some insights from our logs that currently some of it the app does, but maybe it shouldn't do.
Right. So if we wanted to change the granularity on this, obviously you can set the dashboard to like what your time frame is, but is it always going to read? Is it always going to group them by minute because we have the 1 minute in our actual query?
It will right now, but let's do something. So let's do this. Let's do vanity redirects. Let's save this. This is, by the way, Grafana Cloud. We do back these up locally. So let's go to the dashboard settings, variables, add a variable. It's not a query, it's a custom one. So let's call this interval. The label is interval. And we'll call it 1 minute, 5 minutes. Give me 1 hour. What slicing and dicing would you want? Any more?
No, I think it's plenty.
I think that's enough, right? So add this. We have the variable. Now we go back. We can see we have it here, the 1 minute. And now what we do, we use that in the query itself. So rather than doing 1 minute directly, we do interval. And it's the one coming from there. If you go to 5 minutes, there we go. We count them over minutes.
Cool.
But yeah.
I like that. Well, I think we should call this a win. I think it worked out pretty well there. We powered through.
I think so. We're not done just yet. We have to commit.
We have to commit.
I know, right? Who cares about this stuff? So this is it. This is the only thing that
fears of commitment. Yeah, just the change to the Nginx log, right?
Yeah. So this will capture request, capture Nginx request host, capture request host and status in Nginx logs for Loki. This makes easier to group requests that go via Nginx, by host and status. I mean, it's literally that. Okay, I'll need to pull and now push, and that's it. I mean, it won't change anything.
Yeah.
If we had the other end of GitOps, which basically applies to this, GitOps would apply the config, but I've done it locally, just much faster.
Right.
And that's it.
Now we call it a win.
I think now we can call it a win. I think
now we can come back later and look at my vanity redirects dashboard and see if anybody's using them.
Yeah, We can try hitting a few more redirects to see what happens. So throw me a few that we haven't hit so that we see them all here working.
Yeah, so I'll throw a couple brain science in there.
Yeah. And actually, as you do that, this refreshes every 30 seconds, but maybe we want every 10 seconds for it to refresh. Yeah.
Oh, you know why I'm getting the failure to connect on the GoTime.fm? It's because I still have it in my stinking Etsy host. That's why.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm over here thinking like, what?
Brain science. 2 requests, apparently.
Yeah, that was me.
Mm-hmm. It's nice that you go to them multiple times to see if it matches how many times you visited them.
Yeah.
I also think that we have like 2020, right? That still works. Changelog.com. I believe that's still set up. Yeah, there you go. So I would expect this to be caught in there as well within 10 seconds. Apparently not. I'm wondering why.
Well, it hasn't been 10 seconds yet.
And is it, do we do a 302? No, it's, I'm refreshing it and they get streamed.
I know. Let me look. I'll just run it real quick.
Maybe we don't do a 302.
It's 301.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if we do a 301, that's maybe another thing that we may want to do. There you go. Look, I can see it right there. 2020. It's a 301. Mm-hmm. Do you care about 301 versus 302?
Well, we're always, for this dashboard, we're using 302 for our vanity stuff. So just leave it.
So that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Gerhard. Good stuff, man.
You're welcome.
Learning new stuff. I think of all of the things here, I think the query language inside of Grafana, which apparently is Loki, is a little bit.
LogQL is just
LogQL.
Just for Loki logs. For the metrics for Prometheus, it's PromQL.
So we were using LogQL there.
Here we used LogQL, yes, which is inspired by PromQL.
That's why a little bit unwieldy.
Yeah, it can be a bit. And that's like all the documentation that we have. I don't think it's as well structured as it could be.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of scrolling, and more examples would really help. So we can see now, for example, like what we try to slice and dice. Why is there an example how to do that? Like literally
a pretty standard use case. So the other thing is, like, if we would have had structured Nginx logs from day one, then this would have been easier.
Yes.
And it makes you wonder why Nginx doesn't, like, I guess just legacy. They just have that default format they've always used.
That's exactly right. It's just a default format, and everybody expects that format. It is an RFC, so it's not crazy, but like I think it's when you try to get inside the logs, you care about specific things like timings, for example. We could extract a lot more things. And the only reason why we haven't changed to structured logs is because we would have broken existing dashboards that we have. But we should definitely change to structured logs, and for the app as well. I mean, everything really, if you ask me, should be structured logging.
Yeah, JSON, I don't see why you'd want anything else, right?
You can slice and dice them.
Yep. Cool. Well, that was fun for me. I hope you had fun as well. If you're watching this, you are a trooper, because this is like probably 2.5 hours of once we
need to do a lot of editing,
sessions. Jared. Oh, I'm not going to edit this at all.
Please, half of this is too long. People won't watch it.
Well, if you are watching this, you're awesome. And thanks, Gerhard. This is fun. We'll do it again soon.
Likewise. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Cheers.